There you go.
So we'll go ahead and get started here. My name is Maurice Echols. I'm attorney advisor for the Office of Government Ethics. Also on the call here is Stan Kosick. He's a program specialist. He helps with program support, technical issues and whatnot, and with our reporting requirements. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna ask everybody to mute themselves, and then if we have any questions, just kind of raise your hand in the chat. I think it's like a function where you can hold your hand up, and then Stan will answer you, and then you can unmute yourself and go ahead and ask your question. But we'll go ahead and get started here.
Yeah, this is a tough group to mute, Mr. Echols.
And it is good to see you all. Sure, it's your first time seeing me probably. I am relatively new here, but I'm happy to be here and I'm happy to help you all get situated. Started. So of course, what we're all here for is lobbyists. Also, my daughter is here with me today, so she may chime in from time to time, giving her perspective. She's 4 years old. But here we're going to talk about lobbying. It's DC Code Section 1-1162.27. We got the Vegas statute promulgated under the Ethics Act. It's our jurisdiction. It's, of course, DC government public officials, of course, our registered lobbyists. We have a Vegas structure. It's a five-member board. It's comprised of the Office of Open Government, and then the Office of Government Ethics. Now, what is a lobbyist? Lobbyist is any person who engages in lobbying. The majority of you all here. And then lobbying, as it is defined by DC, lobbying means communicating directly with any official in the legislative or executive branch of the district government with the purpose of influencing any legislative action or administrative decision.
I wanted to with
video. We got some chatter coming through.
Yeah.
Folks, mute their phones, please.
Yeah, mute, please. See here. I'm back. So basically, lobbying for our purposes is with DC government. I understand that some of you all may be federal lobbyists as well, but this office wouldn't be concerned with the majority of that activity. All right, lobbying in the District of Columbia. So examples of lobbying activity that will require registration and filing reports with Vegas. Yeah. ABC company opposes legislation that would set the district's hourly minimum wage to $15. It pays a lobbyist firm $5,000 to help it in communicating with district officials regarding its opposition to the legislation. Firm communicates with various council members regarding opposition to the bill. Would they have to register? That's the question. Yes, ABC company and the firm must register as lobbyists with Vega because they expended and received over $250 respectively for lobbying. All expenditures related to this matter in any meetings or communications between the firm and the council members regarding the opposition to the legislation must be disclosed on the lobbying activity report. Now, what is not lobbying? The appearance or presentation of written testimony by a person on his or her own behalf or representation by an attorney on behalf of any such person in a rulemaking, rate making, or adjudicatory hearing before an executive agency or the tax assessor. Also, information supplied in response to written inquiries by an executive agency, the council, or any public official. Inquiries concerning only the status of specific actions by an executive agency or the council. And then also testimony given before the council or a committee of the council during which a public record is made of such proceedings, or testimony submitted for inclusion in such a public record. All right, also excluded is communication made through the instrumentality of a newspaper, television or radio or general circulation, or a publication whose primary audience is the organization's membership, and communications by a bona fide political party. These types of communications would not require registration. All right, continue. Grassroots Communications. This is the act of the general public to contact, or asking the general public to contact public officials concerning issues in legislation. It does not involve direct communication between public officials and the underlying lobbying entity. And then the persons having the direct communications with public officials are not compensated. So this is the example. A nonprofit supports $15 minimum wage legislation and encourages the public to speak with district officials in support of it. Members of the public who communicate with district officials in support of this bill are engaging in lobbying because they are having direct communications with district officials with the intent to influence legislation. But they do not have to register as lobbyists because they are not receiving compensation for these communications. The nonprofit would not need to register as a lobbyist in this effort alone. If a registered lobbyist did not have any direct communications with public officials regarding this matter, then it would not have to report this activity on its lobbying activity report. If you attended the last training, that was worded a little differently. I've corrected it for this training, and this presentation will be going out as well. Continue. What is not lobbying activity that will require registration with BAPE? Also, procurement communications. This is an exception. Communications with district officials regarding government contracting or a purchasing decision are not lobbying. There must be an intent to influence legislative action or administrative decision. And here's the example. A company hires a firm to assist in its influencing the contents of a district RFP and submitting a bid proposal to the district. The company wins the contract and the firm interfaces with a district agency regarding the status of the contract award and later regarding invoice issues. None of these communications or interactions with the district amount to lobbying because there is no intent to influence legislative action or an administrative action. Exception. Contracts in excess of $1 million during a 12-month period require council review. And involve legislative action through the introduction of a resolution, either approving or disapproving the proposed contract. All right, lobbying defined, continue. What is not lobbying activity that require disclosure on lobbyist activity reports? There's also scheduling communications. So the communications with district officials to set up a meeting with a public official, that's not lobbying. And then this alone would not be disclosed on the lobbying activity report. All right, persons required to register. A person shall register with the Director of Government Ethics pursuant to Section 1-1162.29 and pay the required registration fee if the person receives compensation or expends funds in an amount of $250 or more in any 3-month consecutive period for lobbying. A person who receives compensation for more than one source shall register under this section if the person receives an aggregate amount of $250 or more in any 3 consecutive calendar month period for lobbying. Note that both the lobbyist and the client of the lobbyist must register. Lobbyists must register on or before January 15th of each year and no later than 15 days after becoming a lobbyist. Failure to register as required by this section shall result in a civil penalty. All right, the fee. Registration will not be certified until the fee is paid. The registration fee for a lobbyist is $250. If you are a nonprofit organization or a lobbyist who lobbies solely for tax-exempt 501c3 nonprofit organizations, the registration fee is $50. The electronic payment system accepts credit cards. If a check is submitted, it should be payable to the DC Treasurer, and a check will not be considered submitted until it arrives at Vega and the receipt is date stamped. Exceptions. Now, a public official, employee of the United States acting in his or her official capacity, a publisher or working member of the press, radio, television, or ordinary course of business disseminates news or editorial comment to the general public, a candidate, member, or member-elect of an advisory neighborhood commission, or an entity specified in section 47-1802.014 whose activities do not consist of lobbying, the result of which should inure to the financial gain or benefit of the entity. These are exceptions to persons who have to register. All right. Penalty for failure to register. Notwithstanding section 1-1162.21, and except as provided in the subsection C of this section, any person who willfully or knowingly violates any of the provisions of this part shall be fined not more than $5,000 or imprisoned for not more than 12 months or both. Any person who files a report or registration form required under this part in an untimely manner shall be assessed a civil penalty of $10 per day up to 30 days, excluding Saturdays, Sundays, and holidays that the report or registration form is late. Now, the board may waive the penalty imposed under the subsection for good cause shown. Now, as a courtesy, Vega will send notice to all registrants to remind them of upcoming due dates for activity reports. Now, if a report is filed 15 days late or more, a registrant will be fined at least $150 up to $300. Now, this is new. Historically, we only sent out a penalty if you were 30 days late or more, but from the next reporting period going forward, it'll be 15 days late. The code says that, when it's late, it's late. We're supposed to fine $10 per day. We're working our way up to that full compliance. So going forward, if your report is 15 days late or more, a registrant will be fined at least $150. And we'll also send reminder notice of that coming out soon or coming up soon. Here it goes. Please note that after December 31st, 2021, Vega will begin increased enforcement in accordance with DC Code for upcoming activity reports. All right, we can take a pause here if there's any burning questions that anybody would like me to answer. Stan, you see anything? I can't really see the chat on my screen.
I am not seeing any hands raised or anything. I just went through and unmuted everybody. So chime.
Hi, Maurice.
There we go.
Hi. This is Lori Kuiper. I work in government relations for a company, and I am actually in a position where I lobby on behalf of that company. I'm employed by them. So
Okay.
would both my employer and myself have to register?
No, the employer, the company would register, but in your case as being an employee, they would list your activity and your salary that's associated with the lobbying activity on the activity report.
Okay, so only one registration is required, and that is my employer.
Right, in that instance. Right.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else before we move on to next up is basically how to register, going through slides of or renewing registration. All right, if nothing else, we'll pass the mic off to Stan, and you just let me know when you want me to change the slides.
Oh, okay. Or I was going to say, I could share actually, but you have it, so it'll be easier. First of all, everybody, thank you for joining us this afternoon. We want to do more of these. So one of the things I would like, and I'm going to preface all of this with, if there's something that you want to know or see or go over, we certainly can. This was a trial run for us. This is the slides that I created a little over a year ago, actually, to share with everybody. The renewing lobbyist registration, and I think the other one is filing an activity report, both of which deadlines are coming up. I'll be sending out a notice next week to everybody. And then we have to discuss when our deadline is, because we know the 15th falls on a Saturday and the 17th is Martin Luther King Day. So I haven't received confirmation yet, but we'll probably be pushing our deadline to the 18th. Okay, so before we get started, are there any questions before we get started? Seeing none. Hands raised, anybody, anyone? No? Okay. Okay, renewing lobbyist registration. Maurice, if you could click, please. Okay, let's see, who did I pick on? Oh, the Consortium of Universities of the Washington Metropolitan Area. Okay. So the lobbyists, so we're renewing the registration for the consortium. So we're going to click on, this is after you sign in, and then I was wondering if maybe if I just did it on, anyway, after you sign in, this is your welcome page. You click on the registrant or whomever you want to renew. So select registrant to open. There we go. Okay, I'd like to get more clarity. Whoops, hold on. More clarification on the requirement of having reports of contractual lobbyists under my company's renewal. This is Harris. Mo, the question is, I would like to get more clarity on the requirement of having reports of contractual lobbyists on my company's renewal. Harris, are we, let's unmute you.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
There we go.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm with AT&T, and so we have contractual support that works for us, and I think that this is the case for a lot of us. And I know that there's a line item for our AT&T employees, but then we have contractual support that works with us. Actually, Mr. Wilmot's on the call. So all of our reports need to go in at the same time, or are you looking at his? Because at one point I thought that they were caching with each other, but I didn't quite see that happening in the new system. I think we were told that in the beginning. So I just wanted to get clarity on how you're treating the company reports versus the contractual reports.
Okay. So yeah, they don't have to go in at the exact same time. I mean, it's fine if they do, but as long as they're not late, you know, that's what counts. Now, as far as AT&T's report, you would, of course, AT&T would have to register as the lobbyist, and then they list their employees that have those lobbying functions in their activity report, but then they also list the activity of the contracted lobbyists as well. And then the contracted lobbyists, on the flip side, have to register themselves, and then on their activity report, then they report the work that was done for AT&T. And then on our end, we're just looking at both those reports to, you know, just see the activity that both the entities list. Did that answer it?
It did, Maurice, but I think at some point in the beginning when the system was launched, we talked about them caching together, and I didn't, and I can talk offline about this, but yeah, I can talk offline about this.
Okay. Yeah, just follow up with me and Stan, and then we'll get some clarity.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you. Any other questions before we go a little further? I think most of you are well versed in this. This is again renewal. So step one is select registrant to open, and so we picked, like I said, we picked on consortium. So Maurice, go forward, please. Oh, we got to speed that up. So after we select our registrant, here's the registrant profile. What you see over in the lower right is a dark blue box and a light blue box, or I'm sorry, I'm color challenged. It says manage profile. So we select manage profile. Next slide. And there, and that opens our the page, the compensation page. So this is where we add our new compensation, and keep this in mind when we get to activity reports. This is also where we add communications and relationships and contributions and gifts. But right now we're just adding new compensation. So there's a dark blue box. It says add new compensation. Forward, please. Add new compensation. And what that does is open up another box where we get to select our compensation resource, the type of report compensation. So in this case, this would be a registration renewal. The start date, we're coming up on it would be 01/01/2022, and the end date would be 12/31/2022. And then you fill in your compensation amount, save it. Lobbying matters. This is, you can add new, or if you've done this a couple times, you know which lobbying matters your clients. In this case, this was consortium, so this is a higher ed favored lobbying on matters regarding higher ed, the consortium of universities. But you know, whatever you have, some people are retail, some people are telecommunication. If whatever's there, and if it's not there, the add new button, you can select add new and add what you need to add. Next slide, please. And that will give you your compensation. Next slide, please. I think we go to file reports from here. Select file reports. It's the light blue box up top. Next slide. And then there we are. Here we're adding new registration report because this is a renew. So you would add new registration report. Next slide. And here we are. This is what shows up. You have, and make sure when you're going through this, make sure you, the registrant, and your client, or vice versa. If you're the client, make sure make sure everything's correct. And if it's not, make sure you're either A, correcting it yourself, and if you're having difficulty, give me a shout. I'm glad to help you. But then, when it gets to report type, as the slides shows, click renew. This is also the same. We had a question last session. This is also the same procedure for termination. So as you can see, there's new, renew, and termination. So if you're terminating a client, you can basically, you follow these steps and then you click on termination instead of renew. But for this particular exercise, we are talking about renewal because that's what's coming up here starting December 30th. Will be the renewals for 2022. Next slide, please. And then you select the time period, which you can see when I made this was a year, well, almost 2 years ago now. You're going to select the appropriate time period. Next slide, please. And that's it. You have completed the renewal process. Now, once you're all renewed, and then you have activity reports that are due quarterly. So for those of you who have who are currently in the process. I'm sorry, before we go on, were there any questions? Oh, I see a chat. Hold on. Get down there. Oh, that was okay. I think we already
Question
addressed
for you,
that.
Stan?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, this is Lori again. So when you do renew, do you have to renew for a full year? Is that sort of what they're asking for, a full year? You don't renew, say, if you registered in February, you wouldn't renew as of February. You'd renew as of January 1st?
It's calendar year, Lori. Yes. So renew, right. It's Maurice can speak to some of the code requirement more, but renewals are due by January 15th. And what came up in the last session was the question of the question was, well, geez, well, since at the end of the year the registration sort of expires, why do we have to file a termination and all that? And this is bear with me, this is tied together. For our administrative purposes, it doesn't come across that way. The system doesn't recognize it as being expired. So what we ask is, in per code says you have to be renewed by January 15th. Maurice spoke about that in his portion. And so we do understand that you may not know until June that your client, you're representing somebody. You don't know if they're going to have anything until June. Unfortunately, the system isn't flexible enough to recognize that. So if you don't know, what we're advising everybody to do, what I'm advising everybody to do, is if you're not sure, file the termination, and then you could always pick up your client, because the fees, it's not different. Renew or new, they're both $250, or if it's in the case of a nonprofit, it's $50. And there's no harm or foul if you go, oh, okay, you know what, I'm going to terminate ABC Corp because we don't know if we're going to do anything. And then in June, ABC Corp calls you up and says, okay, we need to talk to DC Council about whatever. Then you could go ahead and pick them up again. So what we're trying, I know it's a little bit cumbersome, but it'll be cleaner, and
As a matter of
lot of,
function.
what's that?
As a matter of function, you would just need to file that termination if you don't, plan to renew on time, because without that termination, we don't know, if you intend to, lobby or not. Your activity reports, would be considered late. And so it's best that if you don't know, or if it's up in the air, to just go ahead, if you're not going to have any activity for a while, to go ahead and file that termination at the end of the year. And then, or if you don't file the termination, to go ahead and renew at the beginning of the year, just so we know, what to expect, each quarter or each period.
Right, and that's the other part. Thank you, Maurice. That's the other part of this, is if you file the renewal, if you file termination, we're not going to be looking for an activity report. And if you don't file a termination and you file a renewal, we're going to be looking for an activity report. So keep in mind that puts you on the hook for all of those things as well. Our auditor, when he does his, he goes through, oh, hey, this person not registered and filed an activity report, but there are also, hey, these people are registered but haven't filed an activity report in 3 quarters. That comes to me as well. So if we clean it up and go, it'll save all of us a little bit of work in the long run, to be able to say, well, they filed the termination, so they weren't required to file an activity report. So if you think of it that way, you'll see that it actually saves you work in the long run as well, because you won't have to do an activity report if you file a termination next, coming up. Did that help, Laura?
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
So to be clear, if you don't anticipate any any lobbying activity from a particular client within the next coming year, it's best to just go ahead and file a termination.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely, because that way we're not looking, because I can tell you straight up that Emmanuel, our auditor, that's one of the things he's looking for. He is looking for those that have registered and haven't filed activity reports, and those who have filed activity reports but have forgotten for whatever reason to file registrations.
Okay, that's good to know. And I heard you mention the date of December the 30th.
I'll be sending out a letter next week. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay, so December the 30th is the earliest that we could file any registrations or reports.
Your renewals and activity reports, December 30th will be the earliest day.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. I just wanted to be clear on that. Thank you.
Sure. And if you want to go in and or you suspect you have a client that's you're not going to have anything for next year, go ahead and file the termination when you feel ready to do that. That's the one thing about terminations; they can be filed anytime of year.
Okay.
So, and like I said, it'll save you some administrative stuff later on.
Thank you.
Yep.
This is Dave Wilmot. How are you?
Hi, Dave.
How are you doing?
No talk. I'm well.
Well, you've been so helpful over the years, and I want to commend you on being accessible to us because it makes a real difference, particularly as it relates to moving into a new protocol. My issue is Schedule A on compensation. And what happened at the last period that I filed. We're on a retainer basis, but when you get down to the total compensation paid in Schedule A, what it's doing is that it's shifting it from the retainer to compensation, and I haven't been able to. Are you familiar with what's going on there?
Familiar. I'm aware of the situation. I am working with Octo. We have a couple of things that we're working with Octo to get fixed. This has been an ongoing issue since I started. They haven't been able to identify the issue, but yeah, every quarter it seems my support tickets are loaded with A2 not calculating.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Right. Well, I did file because a second because I wanted to put. I did file a duplicate so that in the summary, I could not in the summary. Let me back up here. Let me just so that in the I certified, in terms of what exactly happened as it relates, and that's in that section where you can have additional comments. So that's reflected in my most recent reports that were filed.
Right, I saw that, and thank you, because at first I was looking at it, and at the first glance, I kind of scratched my head a little bit, but then I realized when I went into it that's what you had done. So we appreciate that, because it is the auditor, again, when he goes through this and he's looking at this, and if he doesn't he's going to check this, and if he doesn't see where oh, hey, this is part A and this is, or part A and part B kind of situation, he's not going to put that together. And I really appreciate you doing that, David. Thank you. It is something we're working on. Maybe it's for everybody's information. I wear two hats. I work with Maurice on the lobbyist side, and I do the financial disclosure. Financial disclosure has been both systems were created at the same time, and they're supposed to feed off of one another. But we ran into some larger issues with financial disclosure that we have made that has taken precedence. Once those the latest set of improvements are implemented and running, I'm going to turn my focus to the lobbyists, the LRR registration, and Maurice Maurice, our auditor, myself, and director are going to sit down and talk about the things that need to be updated and upgraded. Because we have a list. One of your peers out there was kind enough to give us a very extensive list. Last year we had a stakeholders meeting about things that we want to improve, and we just haven't been able to get to it because the financial disclosure took precedence. But rest assured, we are going to get to this because that's my mission in life right now. So,
Well, you were always accessible, and we really appreciate that. You know, I descend on your offices when we could do that. Because of the pandemic, we can't do much of that anymore. And you were always very helpful. As a matter of fact, most of the stuff that you see in my cell phone is information that you provided so that I could make sure that I'm on the right course when I'm at least filling out the documents that come to you. So,
well,
thank you.
I'm happy to hear that. I tried to make myself accessible, and we all do. And someday when the pandemic's over, we can all hopefully have these trainings in person. And by the sounds of things, in our new home, someplace over what was it, on 15th Street. So we're ultimately going to have a new home, I think. Apparently,
Yeah.
at least that's what we heard.
In
So,
23.
So
in
for those of us
2023.
who haven't had the privilege, who are you and how do we reach you if we too are seeking assistance and access?
I am so sorry. I should.
So yeah, we'll drop that in an email after the
Okay, thanks.
But
training here.
yeah, I'm Stan Kosick. I am the program specialist for the financial disclosure and lobbyist registration and reporting systems. Basically, like Maurice said in his introduction, I'm doing all things technical and all things customer service, if you will, and helping people out and answering questions to the level of my understanding of the code, and sometimes having to kick those up to Maurice or beyond. But if I can't answer it, Maurice can, and we'll get you the answer. But that's who I am. I apologize for not introducing myself ahead of time.
Thank you very much.
Sure. I've been here for a little over 2 years now. I love it. I love the people I work with. Like I said, David said he came in, and it was shortly before we all went home, and we sat down at my desk and worked on his activity reports for that particular quarter. And I've actually had a couple folks do that. So, and I miss that part of it. I miss, that's the part I miss. So I do have opportunity to speak with a lot of folks. Miss Kuiper was on here, and I'm looking through the names, and I go, okay, I've talked to a good number of folks that are listed here. So one way, shape, or another on whatever topics, and sometimes it was it was business that turned into a personal conversation, and that's. I don't know. That's just kind of who I am. I just like to get to know who I'm working with. Moving on. Are there any other questions? No? Okay. So activity reports. That's the next thing that's also coming up. We have renewals. We have inactivity reports. Fourth quarter activity reports will be due January 15th. And as Maurice mentioned in his section, it bears repeating that the activity reports are due quarterly and on the 15th day of January, April, July, and October of each year. And each registrant shall file, this is code quote, shall file separate activity report for each person for whom he or she receives compensation. Reports shall be public documents. You all know this. It'll, when you go in and do your activity report, it does show up on the public portal over at what's that website? Oh, I'm not going to worry about too much. At the E-File efiler.bega.dc.gov/LRR search. Anyway, next slide, please. So more code. Again, Maurice covered a good portion of this in regards to expenditures and contributions. I'll give you a second to read that. If you have any questions, please feel free to chime in. Next slide. So let's see, who did I pick on for this? I picked on the DC Chamber of Commerce for filing our activity reports. So Mo, I have some motion stuff on the slides. If you would click through, please. Select your registrant. And you know, this was just one. This happened to be just one entity that was one registrant. You know, some of you have multiple registrants and clients, so you know, just keep in mind that you're doing that accordingly. So again, like when filing a renewal or a registration report, manage profile. And again, adding new compensation. Yes, I shrunk this down because it is repetitive, but you're following the same steps that we did in the renewal. You're adding the compensation for the period. And in this case, under report type of report compensation, it's going to be activity report. If you would, Mo, please go forward. Select new compensation, add new communication, add your communications. Is everybody familiar with the Excel spreadsheet? And this was something I should have added to this training, but I didn't. It is, I found a huge time savings because I was forget who I was struggling to help, but and this was something I did. I don't want to advertise this, but I'm going to tell everybody. I had it was one of your peers said, hey, I need some help. And they ended up sending me their communication list, and I uploaded it into an Excel spreadsheet that when we select on add new communication, there the template is there. And I did that because I'm good with Excel, and I sent it back to them, and then they uploaded their communications. So you select add new communication. Go forward, please. And then you, once all of your communications are uploaded, and I think that's something I thank you. Like now, as I'm going through this, I see that I'm going to have to maybe spend a little more time on the communication part. But so after you upload your communications, you select file reports. And like the registration report, you're instead of a registration report, you're filing the activity report. So you're clicking on the activity report tab and adding a new excuse me, adding a new report, a new activity. Again, check for accuracy. Make sure that your registrant and your client are correct and all the contact information are correct. And then your report period. The report period is going to be different. It's going to be, I'm trying to, and forgive me, but I'm definitely working on the idea of having something that's a little more standardized, because I've been all over the place, but I think I nailed it down to one I like, where it's going to be Q1 2022, Q2 2022, Q3 2020, and that will equate to Q1 2022. Or in this case, right now, we're going to be filing for Q4 2021. So it'll be Q4 2021 will be the activity report. So report period. And then once everything's uploaded and you've checked everything, save and certify. And again, the note here is absent any sort of certification, the registration will not be complete. That was really quick and dirty. I know there's got to be some questions here. What I think I'm going to ask is if Maurice would mind relinquishing the screen, and I'm going to, I have something queued up to where I can show the Excel spreadsheet and how to upload that if everybody is interested, or if anybody's interested. Show of hands, questions. Okay, well, I'm just going to go ahead and do this. Sorry, bear with me here. Okay. How do I share my screen? Share. There we go. All right. All right. Sharing the whiteboard. Not sure what that means. Can everybody see what I'm see my registration?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good.
Yes,
Awesome.
I can.
Excellent. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go in and file my activity report. So click on me. Manage profile. Add new compensation here. Activity report and the start date. October 1, December 31st. I'm just going to leave it at that. Amount is unknown. I don't know. I'm monitoring COVID legislation. So there's my new compensation. Now for communications, let's add new communication. So I can do this. I can fill out all this information and when I had my communication in a type, or this is good. I don't know if everybody knows about this or not. There's an import communications. And what you can do is download this contact communication template. So as you can, everybody can see the Excel.
No.
No, it's not showing up.
Okay, let's do that.
Yeah, I see the reporting page, but I think you got to switch it to the Excel page. If you pull.
Right.
But this is fantastic. Thank you.
Sure. Where's my, let's see here. Oh, there we go. Sorry. Okay, hold on one moment. We're going to do it this way. here's the Excel page. Now, can everybody see this?
Sir.
Yes, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.
So this is a template that was set up. And what you do once you open it up, you enable editing. And as you can see, it's set up first name, last name, the title of the person you met with, the agency, the type. If you emailed the person, you had a meeting, and I'll touch on that in a second. The date, the time, and whatever the purpose. So let's say, you know, I met with, I don't know, Joe Smith, DOH, I'm sorry, health specialist, with DOH. It's a phone call. Oh, good. This, great. So it says retry. So, okay. So communication type. Hey, there we go. We have 1, 2, 3, 6 different types of communications. You have meeting, email, phone, although why didn't it like my phone? I don't know. Not identified, letter, which is a hard copy, printed material mailed or delivered in person, or social media. So if we go back here and, okay, I'm going to say email instead. Doesn't match. Okay, I'll leave that alone. Come back to that in a second. And I met with him on 12/1/2021. 120 is good. To talk about COVID. In 3 months. Let's just say that's my only, I'm going to just leave it at that because that's my only communication. So I'll get rid of the rest of that. Save this as you would. Anyway, save it as you would. And then what you do, whoops, I'm sharing. And what you do, you come back over here. It says now I'm sharing 2 applications, so good. You can import your new contact. And what it'll do is it'll allow you to choose a file from your folders. Is everybody able to see this? I'm just making sure.
Yep.
Okay, good. And I'm, well, actually, I'll show you one here. So I have it and importing, and bam. And I can go ahead and select them or delete them as necessary.
Question.
And over here. Yes.
First of all, Stan, thank you for all the work that you and the team do. Echo Mr. Wilmot's comments as well. We appreciate it. If you use this technique and upload via the spreadsheet, does it automatically, it seems like it does, automatically populate this field that you would ordinarily just input individually into?
Yes. The only issue, and it took me some playing around because I was like, what? Wait, why isn't this doing this? You have to go in, and you have to go here. You have to, and that was my next step, was to show everybody you have to come here and you have to click on those boxes, and up here it says select, well, it says select all ready to move. And then you have to move contacts to current. And so what happens is once you do that, there they go and show up on your current
Got it.
on your current communications.
Sorry to have interrupted the instruction
No,
that I was asking.
that's okay.
Would you mind doing it? Because it's like, it seems like it's a multi-step process once you import it. I apologize.
Yes, yeah. So once you import it, here, I'll import another one because I have a couple. Well, I can import the same one even. So import new contacts. Choose the file that you saved your contacts. Come on, it's going to take forever, isn't it? I'll choose this one now, and so we're going to import that. This, we had 13 entries. So what I did, so I picked a different file. So I want to move these over into my current. Yeah, so there is a multi-step process. You import them, you're here, you go, okay, so I'm going to select all ready to move. And that checked my boxes there. And what I'm going to do then is move contacts to current. So what I'm going to get is the few of them that were checked, we're able to go over. What we have now, I have one more. Looks like I have two more. Like you can click them, or you can do that select all ready to move. Right now I just went through and selected them manually, and I can move these contacts. Move contacts to current. Oops, current. Sorry, and there they are. So I have so far. Now we have some that are pending. This is a good exercise. This is a really good exercise, actually. Why is it pending? That's a good question. So, right, sometimes when it comes through pending, you have to go through and there's something the system has picked up on that needs to be adjusted. So like this one, it says Vince Gray not found. I know, and we know why, or we should know why. Because he's council member. Council. What should happen is, yes.
Yes, my name is Emil Robinson, and I work with Rob Woodson of Parker Poe. So this Excel spreadsheet, this is not really a time saver unless you keep this. This is ongoing for your own records, really, right? I mean, because if you have to type all of this into a spreadsheet, it's the same as typing it into the report itself, right?
Yes, that is correct. If you're not tracking it on a daily basis, if you will, or even weekly, yeah, you're right, because then you're going back, you're going to type it all into the spreadsheet, and when you could be typing it all into as a straight up communication.
Okay, because I was thinking of it as a time saver, but only if you, and I mean, this is a good way to track it, if it's done that way. So, okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, it's all a matter of how you use it. It can be a time saver, or it can be a time suck, depending on depending on how you use it.
Okay.
So there, I added all my new communications. And then again, we go to file reports, activity report. And actually nothing's going to come up. Okay, what's going right? Ah, okay, good. You just want to keep. I have to make myself point of contact. Let's see.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
More than you bargained for.
Here, while I'm thinking about it, and before we lose any more participants due to time constraints, the upcoming deadline for the renewal is going to be January 18th.
Great, thank
So
you.
that's
Thank
been
you.
settled.
So, and then this, here we are, we're filing our activity report. That's me, all of this down. You know, when I create it, it'll be, see, I did Q1, that did 2, 3. So I'll be doing QTR4. That's the one I like. Is there any consensus on how you want to see that?
I defer to my colleagues here.
Fair enough. It doesn't. So, am I hearing it doesn't matter? But like I said, I want to just make it clean and set something, and as we go forward, and just have it be what we use from here on out, with just a straight same nomenclature throughout. At least during my tenure.
Yeah, I appreciate trying to clean it up. It's a little confusing because the Q1 filing is really for Q4 activities. So,
right.
So you may have to say, Q1 for Q4. And so it gets a little complicated either way. So whatever you guys.
It looks a lot less complicated if you just put the dates in like you have been doing.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay.
Reference.
Okay, see, this is good. That's good feedback. Thank you. So what I should do is kind of what sort of like, so this period here that we just, I grabbed 1/1/2021, and was the period was anyway, it was 3/31/2021. That's Q1 of 2021.
I don't
right?
know if I put the Q1 in there. I just needed the dates.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
I mean, it just seems less confusing to me.
Okay. No, that's good information. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions regarding activity reports?
Can we make them weekly? No, I'm just kidding.
Weekly. Yes, go ahead. You know,
joke, trying to add a little, levity to the.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Max.
Yeah.
Can you do that? Yeah, you can put them in weekly. That's the thing I see all the time where at least information is uploaded, not necessarily where they filed or anything, but where the information was uploaded. So
that's really the
certainly do it that way as well.
Yeah, as I'm
all a matter of how efficient you want to be.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Got a couple more. This looks like a chat.
I have another question, Stan. Are you the only contact person for technical difficulties? Because I can imagine it gets overloaded, I'm sure, when reports are due.
Yeah, yes and no. If I ask, Tyrell, and some of you may be already familiar with Tyrell. He fielded a lot of
Tyrell is my best friend.
Okay.
He has been for several years.
Okay, and Tyrell has he has taken on the administrative officer position with the agency, so it really is me, and I fall back on Tyrell if the need arises. And we have that kind of relationship.
Okay,
If he needs backup, I'm there. I've answered, I've taken on answering the phones and stuff. But my phone, the phone number that I put out there is my work cell. It's right here. It never leaves my side between 7:30 and 5 o'clock. So if you're up that early and still in the office at 5, if my phone's ringing, I'm answering it. So that's one way to get me. My email's another. I try to be responsive.
okay.
I know we have I'm not really sure. I think our policy is 48 hours, but personally, I try to be within 24 or less. But thank you for bringing that up. Because the one other way to get me is through the support tickets, filing a support ticket. And I brought this up last meeting. I want to bring it up again. Be careful when we're filing a support ticket, because there are two options. One is for the financial disclosure and one is for the lobbyist registration and reporting. If you click financial disclosure and we're in December, chances are I'm not looking at it, because we don't have a whole lot of financial disclosure going on right now. So I look at them, but I don't look at them that frequently. But if I see the LRR and that pops up, I'm on it, because that's, that's the thing. Lobbyist stuff never sort of dies down. There's always something going on, even though we don't have an active reporting period one way or the other. So just keep that in mind, everybody, that when you're selecting a support ticket, that you are selecting the LRR.
Okay.
Was there any other questions, answers? How we doing? Let's see. I had the Q&A. Was it Q&A? Oh, wait.
Yeah, I answered the question that was lingering in the chat.
Okay,
So
cool.
if I have any more questions, we can go ahead and tend to our other businesses.
Appreciate the time and support. So thank you.
No
Nice
problem.
to meet you, Mr. Echols.
Nice to meet you as well. Did we record this? I think it's automatically recorded, huh?
Yeah, it's automatically recorded.
Yeah, will it be posted?
Yeah, I can post it somewhere. I don't know. What, on our website?
That would be helpful.
Yeah, we can post it to the website. We'll also be sending the slides out to everyone who registered.
Yes, I would love to have the slides. That would be very helpful.
Yep, you will receive them. Everybody, all the registrants, all the people who were invited are going to get a copy of the slides. So
Okay. Thank you so very much to both of you, and have a happy holiday.
A happy holiday to both of you from the Wilmot family.
thank you, David.
Dan, appreciate your time and efforts. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bye-bye, everyone.
Happy holidays. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Happy
Bye-bye.
holidays.
Meeting. Go. Okay, we're doing that. How can I get it to turn on?